hi ladies. So I am not going to give the class today, do not worry. But because I've heard so much from many of you how you appreciate learning Talmud. For me, it's definitely a first. For several of you, it may not be. But we have to give appreciation and credit and certainly gratefulness to our Rebbe, Rav Dave, and anybody that teaches Talmud is a Rebbe. So from all of us, we'd like to give you a little gift for Hanukkah, for appreciation, and it is from all of us.
Thank you.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay, it says Happy Hanukkah. Okay, it says we truly appreciate the opportunity given to us to learn Torah, nor do we take for granted the preparation and time you so willingly give. Kol hakavod, and from the class, thank you, and thank you, because the biggest beneficiary is always the person who is leading the group. So thank you very much, and it's a gift card to Century Grill, which we certainly will use.
Yay.
So first of all, we have to welcome our sponsor, Rita Geller. Rita's here for the first time this season. We're very happy to see Rita. So
That's Rita, raise your hands.
So you have two sheets, two handouts, and the first one, which on the table in the back, two of them has highlighting. One has highlighting in pink and one in yellow. The one with the highlighting in yellow happens to talk about Hanukkah. Hanukkah has a very, very small amount of Gemara dealing with it. Purim has a whole Masechta. Masechta Megillah talks about Purim, and some of you may have attended the class that we did a few years ago where it talks about what day do you read the Megillah, how many, whether it's a city that had a wall around it, whether a city didn't, and Shushan and so on. But Hanukkah is a very small amount, so I thought we'd just go through some of it together, since today is Hanukkah. So if you're holding the sheet on the left-hand side, the highlight where it starts Tana Rabbanan. Okay, so you have that. So this is going to tell us why we light the Hanukkah menorah the way we do. Right? We all know what we do. We add one candle every night and so on. So it says Tana Rabbanan, mitzvahs Hanukkah ner ish ubeso. The basic mitzvah of Hanukkah is every person lights one candle in his home. That's the basic mitzvah, right? V'hamahadrin, and people who go beyond, ner l'chol echad v'echad. Then everyone in the household, and by the way, husband and wife are considered like one, so you don't, if it's a husband and wife, in some cases they both light, in some cases we happen to light just one, but if you have other people in the home, your kids or whatever, so the higher level of mitzvah is to everybody to light a menorah. Ha-mahadrin min ha-mahadrin, so above and beyond is ner l'chol echad v'echad, ha-mahadrin min ha-mahadrin. So now you have come on in. So you have a difference of opinion of how it's practiced. Beis Shammai omrim, Yom Rishon madlik shmona. So Beis Shammai, so if you know Shammai and Hillel, throughout the Gemara, there are many, many disputes between the two of them. And he says that the mitzvah is on the first night you light 8 candles, right? Mikan ve'elach poches v'holech. From then on, you reduce one. So on day 1 you light 8, day 2 you light 7, and so on. Beis Hillel say, Yom Rishon Malik Echas, on the first night you light 1. Mikan ve'elach mosif v'holech. From then on, so day 2 you're going to light 2, day 3 you're going to light 3, and so on. So what's the basis? I mean, why does Beis Shammai say one way? Why does Beis Hillel say another? Amar Ula, Pliki B'Trei Amaroi. So Shammai and Hillel were Tanoim, right? We know that. So they were the earlier group. And then the Amoraim came along to explain what was stated by the Tanoim. So there are two Amoraim Marova. Marova means in the west, because these people who are talking, they're in Iraq, in Babylon, in Bavel. So in the west of there is Eretz Yisrael. So in Eretz Yisrael, this is how the dispute took place. Rabbi Yossi bar Oven, Rabbi Yossi bar Zvida. So both of them named Rabbi Yossi. One was Yossi the son of Oven, one was Yossi the son of Zvida. Chad Amar, one says, Talmid Beis Shammai. What's Beis Shammai's reasoning? Why does he go from 8 to 7 to 6 to 5? Right? He says, Keneged Yomim HaNechnosim. That's the days of assembly. It's relating to Sukkot. And on Sukkot, it's very interesting. They practice 7 days Sukkot, right? We keep 8 days because of the fact of the confusion and so on. But the pasuk, the Torah says that on the first day of Sukkot, it says, "Ubachamisha asar yom lachodesh hashvi," the 15th day of the 7th month, which is the month of Tishrei, right? Mikra Kodesh Yelachem, it'll be a holy day for you. Kol Melecha Savodo Sasu, you do not work. V'chagosem Chag Lashem Shivas Yomim, celebrate for 7 days. And then it says, V'kravtem Ola Ish Ereach Nichoach Lashem. They're going to tell you what is the prescribed number of sacrifices that are brought, number of offerings. So what are they? So you bring Parim B'nei Bakar Shlosha. So you bring 13 young bulls, Elim Shnayim, 2 rams, Kvasim B'nei Shana Arba Asar, Tmimi Yu, and 14 lambs, which are perfect. That's the first day. And then it goes on to other things, that there's some meal offerings to go along with it. The next day, it says, Ubayom Hasheni, Parim B'nei Bakar Shnei Masar. Now on the second day, 12, not 13. And then, however, and I'm going to ask you a question, but we're giving the answer right now, but you have to just pay attention. Maybe you're going to get it, right? So, and then it says also, Elim Shnayim, 2 rams, Kvasim B'nei Shana Arba Asar, and 14 lambs. Okay? So on the first day, 13 bulls, 2 rams, 14 lambs. Second day, 12 bulls, 2 rams, 14 lambs. The third day, 11, 2, and 14 again. So Beis Shammai says that we light the Hanukkah menorah in descending numbers, 8, 7, 6, 5, to correspond with the bulls that were brought on Sukkot. So you could ask a question. You could say, well, wait a second. The bulls were reduced in number, but how about the lambs and the rams, right? Myrna she knew what the question was going to be. And so the answer that is given is that Sukkot, actually the month of Tishrei, the entire world is judged, not just the Jewish people. And on Sukkot, when we bring those offerings, it's not just to benefit the Jewish people, right, Tova? It's to benefit the entire world. So, and the reason that we bring all those offerings, and it's a very public display, is to let the world know we're praying for you. And we face opposition. We face it now, we faced it then. And the hope is that as the nations of the world see the intentions of the Jewish people, their, what do you want to call it, animosity, hatred, anti-Semitism towards us will be reduced day by day. So each day that they see. So that was, yes, Joe?
Why don't we publicize that?
So why don't we, that's a good question,
I mean,
but that's a good one, and I don't know what the answer is, so I can only answer what we
I'm
do
gonna from
here,
home.
right, okay. So, Margalit?
Also, I don't remember where I saw it, but the Shammai felt that the first day of Hanukkah, the miracle was 8 days. The miracle was bigger than the last day, which is only 1 day.
Right.
And that's why he said 8, 7, 6. But Ein Malim, Ein Moedim.
Yeah.
Well, that's the next, that's Hillel, that's very good,
So that's already the other one.
right, so that's one more answer, which is not given directly in the Gemara, but what Margalit is saying is that Beis Shammai's motivation was that the mitzvah was biggest on the first day because you have to have enough to go for the remaining 7 days. Okay, so that's Shammai. The time of the Beis Hillel, and what is Hillel's reason, because sounds like what Shammai had to say makes a lot of sense. He says, Keneged Yom HaYotzim. So he says the number is like the days that have already passed, right? Because on the second day, the first day is gone. B'chad Omar, his time, and what it is, Beis Hillel says the Malin B'Kodesh V'Emoridin, that we always try to enhance or improve or increase the Kodesh and not to reduce it. So, and then the very famous question, if you go to the next section, next page over there, on this same handout, also in yellow, my Hanukkah. That's a very famous question. What is Hanukkah? Why do we celebrate? What is it all about? Is the Tana Rabbanan, because the rabbis learned B'Chaf Hei, the Kislev, on the 25th day of Kislev, Yomei de Hanukkah, Tamana Inun. The days of Hanukkah are 8, right? Dulo lim mispar b'hon, dulo lis anas b'hon. We do not offer eulogies during those 8 days. We do not fast during the 8 days of Hanukkah. Shekenichnesu Yevonim lahechol timu kol hashmanim shebehechol. That when the Greeks entered into the sanctuary in the base of Mikdash, they defiled all of the oil that was there. V'shegavra malchus beis hachashmonai v'nitzchum. And when the Maccabees overcame them, right? They found only one little jar of oil, which had the hechsher, right? The seal of the Kohen Gadol. And there only was enough to light one day, and so on. So every child knows the story, but here's the source for it. Now we know that if somebody says to you, how do we know Hanukkah? Say, well, open up the Gemara Shabbos, page 21b, and I'll show you. Okay, and that's just where it is. So that's a little bit of a parenthetic. So is
Can I ask
just
a
a
question?
sure.
So we're not
By the way,
allowed-
this is Shana Shapiro, a new
Shana
member of the
Shapiro,
class.
hi. So we're not allowed to have eulogies on Hanukkah. Are we allowed to make a Shiva visit? Are we allowed to light a yahrzeit candle? And
Sure.
those things are
Yep.
permitted.
Yep.
So just the eulogy, that's the only one.
I think the whole month of Kislev, no, you don't give. I heard the whole month.
I'm not sure about
On Nisan?
What was the question?
Nissan, right? The month
They
of
don't
Nissan, you
do
don't.
eulogies.
Yeah.
You should know.
So just a quick review of where we are. So we've been talking about disputed property where two people, or sometimes more than two people, have a claim. They have a claim on the same object, and we went through 3 scenarios. We're going to get to a 4th one today. The first one was Fran and Miriam, right? Each one holding on to one edge of the sweater. And they said, each one said, what did you say, Miriam? What was your claim, Miriam? When you walked in with that holding that sweater?
Mine.
I find this sweater in the parking lot and I picked it up.
Mine.
Mine.
It's mine. And Fran said the same thing, right? So we had to figure out how to solve that. The second one, Kate is the storekeeper, and the landscaper instructed the storekeeper to pay his workers because he can't manage to get to 3 or 4 places at the same time, and he would pay her back. Now comes Monday morning, the employee comes to Todd and says, hey Todd, I didn't get paid. And Todd says, well, Kate paid you, and Kate says she paid you, so how do we settle that one? The third one was Tova and Harriet with the cow and the bull, where
Gourd cow.
And the calf.
and the
Dead
calf,
calf.
and the calf, right? So Harriet's cow was gored by Tova's bull. Nobody disagrees on that. But there's a calf lying on the ground, and the question is, when did that calf die? Was the calf killed along with the cow? So in other words, the bull so Tova is now responsible for that damage, and she's got to pay. Or did the cow give birth before the goring, and therefore Tova is not responsible for that?
Right.
Okay. So the fourth one we're going to get into is next month. Lyndall and I are going on a cruise, which was organized by Eva. Is anybody else going on that cruise?
How many from here are going? 16 people so far.
Okay, so if nobody else is going on the cruise, then I have to pick on Eva. So let's say it's Friday afternoon, and we're all busy, even though nobody's cooking, but still you have to get ready for Shabbos and everything, and you have this issue
You're
with.
not cooking.
What?
You're not cooking.
I'm not cooking.
Not knowing.
Right, that's Friday.
Okay,
Right.
now we know how that household works.
Right, I am,
On my household, it's just the opposite.
okay, so, I'll leave that one where it is.
I'm arm candy.
All right. Anyway, so Friday afternoon, none of us is cooking, and but you're still worried because you're busy, getting busy because you have to have those electronic tea lights and everything else, and you have to think, where am I going to light it? Because one time we went on a cruise, they let us light candles. We had to go into the like the cocktail lounge and light it there, whatever. So anyway, so people are busy, and along come two crew members. We're gonna call them Bree and Jen.
Whoa.
Oh.
So Bree
and Jen.
Bree and Jen come to Tova, to Eva, and they say to her, listen, you know, this is all for us, it's all about the tips, right? And we managed to get nice tips from the last cruise. We didn't get a chance to go to the bank. We have no safe in our room. You have a safe in your room. Would you hold the money for us? And Eva's busy. She said, okay, I'll take it from you. And so Bree and Jen each give her the money. One of them $100, one of them $200. And Eva doesn't write it down. There's no witnesses because Dave is in the shower, whatever's going on. And now comes Sunday when the ship docks, and Bree and Jen come over to Eva, and each one says, you were holding $200 for me. So Eva opens the safe, and there's only $300 there. So how is that going to work? Right? So when we finished up last week, we brought in Rav Yossi. So if you take a look, if you're in the all Hebrew one, so we're on 3A, Gimel Amud Aleph, and if you count down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 lines down. If you're in the Hebrew, count down 10 lines down. If you're in the English, you go to page 3A3.
383, okay.
3A3.
Where's the Hebrew?
If you're in the Hebrew, you're on Gimel Amud Aleph. That's the book opening from the right. And if you're in the English, which starts in the middle, it's page 3A3 at the end of the first column, right?
Okay.
Where is it in Hebrew?
In the Hebrew, it's Gimel Amud Aleph, right? 3A. Count down 10 lines. Count 10 lines down.
Nobody should be in Hebrew, everybody should be in English and make it easy.
I can't find it. Where is it?
Okay, how we
10
doing?
lines down, Terry.
10 lines down in the Hebrew, where it says Ela hakol yehei imkein ma'hefsid ramai. So Rav Yossi brings in a new concept, which really could apply to all these cases, except for the one with Tova and Harriet. Because in the other two cases, it's possible that somebody is not telling the truth, right? Because Fran and Miriam are coming to our court. We're the judges, right? And it's possible that one of them is mistaken, right? That they didn't both pick it up at the same time. In the case of Kate, the storekeeper, it could be that the employee was paid, but there's a whole line of people in front of him, and he figured maybe he'll get away with it if he says he didn't get paid, right? So Rav Yossi says, Im kain ma'hefsid ramai. If we basically just divide, so the case that this is referring to is in the second handout, and you can see it in the pink. Okay, in this one you have Hebrew and English. Okay, so in the Hebrew it says Shnayim shefkidu eitzel echad, two people So Bree and Jen place their money with Eva. Zem ona v'zem osayim. 100 and 200. Now the ship docks and they both come to Eva. Ze omer shalim osayim. V'ze omer shalim osayim. Jen says you owe me 200, and Bree says I left 200 with you. So what do we do? Okay. So the Gemara says, no se lezem ona v'lezem ona. Give each one 100. Why? What's the logic in that? Why should you give each one 100? Nina, what do you think?
They all agree.
Because
They all agree, exactly right, exactly right. Everybody, each one certainly has 100, right?
Right.
Right? Vashar yemunach ad sheyavo Eliyahu. And the balance, the other 100, should be set aside until it can be clarified. So they say ad sheyavo Eliyahu because we hope that eventually when the Mashiach comes, all these disputes, all these disputes will be settled.
Yeah, right.
But now here
So who
comes,
takes the $100?
what?
You give it to tzedakah.
Well, that's another
Or divide
solution.
it. You invest it.
That's another solution, but now comes Rav Yossi. He says, Amar Rav Yossi, im kain, if so, ma'av sida ramai. So, a couple of weeks ago, maybe you heard about it, there was a certain individual who shoplifted some fancy boutiques in New York City, and he stole these expensive handbags, and he went into Myrna, you heard about it, right? He went into 4 different stores. One of them he went back twice, and he wound up stealing about $25,000 worth of pocketbooks. And he got arrested, and the Manhattan District Attorney decided that they were too busy to try the case, and they basically, Jill is
Let him
shocked,
go.
right? So they basically decided they were too busy to try the case, and they basically let him go. And the writer of the article complaining about this said, and they didn't even make him make restitution.
So he kept the bag?
So, well, he sold them on eBay probably, because that's what they do. They steal his high-end stuff and they sell it out on eBay.
Take it to China, Karen.
Whatever they do with it, and so, but if he made restitution, would that have been a punishment to him?
No.
No, because if he stole 25,000, they returned 25,000. What did he have to lose? So that's what Rav Yossi says.
25,000?
They were worth 25,000. These handbags.
They made him give 25,000?
They did not make him give anything. So that's totally that's totally off the wall. But the point is, to this reporter who never studied this Gemara, he never heard of Rav Yossi, to him that would have been okay if they paid, if this individual paid back the 25,000, but that would not have been okay.
Everybody's gonna think it's worth a try.
So that's what Rav
What's
Yossi
going
says.
on? It is
That's
worth a
exactly-
try if you live in New York.
So now you have Jen and Bree, right? And let's say Jen is the one that left 200 and Bree the 100. So Bree says, you know what? What do I have to lose? Because Bree knew the Gemara, and she knew that if I claim 200, and maybe I get there before Jen gets there, and Eva gives me the money. But if it turns out that Jen shows up at the same time I do, what do I have to lose? I'm still going to get 100, right? And that's all she had. So Rav Yossi says, in Cain, if so, what loss is there to do it? Therefore, Rav Yossi's solution is that, what does he say to do? Ela hakol yehi munach ad shivo Eliyahu. All of it
Should go.
should be set aside. Don't give anybody anything.
Wait, so what happens with the money? Eva ends up with $250.
Eva has $300.
300.
I'm sorry, Eva, you know this, it's already 250. 300, so she just won $300?
No, she
She's not getting it.
no, so she, what happens is she's going to deposit it with the court.
She can deposit.
She'll deposit it with the court, because otherwise she's responsible for watching that money, and she doesn't want to do that. So she'll take the money, deposit it with the court.
Yeah, that's.
Right, and the money will remain, all the money, says Rav Yossi, because if we give Jen and Bree each $100, what did the the
The
dishonest
liar
one
has
lose.
nothing to
What
do
did
with it.
what did she lose, right?
But then the honest person is also being punished, right?
That's a big problem.
Yeah.
That's a big problem. So that's why, so continuing on in our Gemara. So he says, okay, Ela kol yemunach ad shivo Eliyahu. So that's what Rabbi Yossi says. Now continuing, it says, Elamai Rabbanon. So the rabbis, in other words, Rabbi Yossi is a minority opinion. So the others, what is their logic? What's their reasoning? Why do they say you should give each of them 100 and the remaining 100 should be set aside, right? His Elamai Rabbanon, Kivan to Amri Rabbanon, since the rabbis say, Hashar Yehemunach ad shivo Eliyahu, so the balance should be left over, should be set aside, right? Hanami Kishar Dami Disfekahu, because all of it, because the only thing it's what's in doubt, what's in dispute really? 100, right? So that part, so since only that one part is in doubt or in dispute, so that part, that is armor, or they could say, Bishlomo Rabbanan, even the rabbis, so in our cases that we've been talking about, the first three different scenarios, he says, Devadai Haimana Dechad Minayu. So certainly one of them owns that other 100, right? So Hav Amri Rabbanan Yehemunach ad Yavo Eliyahu. So they say that one should be set aside because Hacha Deika Lemeimar Detarvayu Hu Amri Rabbanan Palgi B'Shvua. Because in the case of Fran and Miriam, it's possible that they both are telling the truth, right? Could be that they both picked it up at the same time, right? So, right, right, that they both, because it's Amri Rabbanan, Pagi B'Shvua, therefore they divide it, they swear. And the Shvua, the oath that they take is that I own no less than 50%, right? Because it's going to be divided in half, right? So you had the other case, we had the other case where one said that I picked it up myself and it's all mine, and the other one says, no, we picked it up together, and therefore we're each entitled to half. So in that case, if you remember, what happens is that we take a look at what is in dispute. So the first half, they both agree, belongs to the person who says it's all mine. And the other one has no claim on that first half, because she says it's only half mine. So the half, which is in dispute, is what gets divided. So in that case, it's 75-25. But in the basic case where they both come in together, and they both are saying the same thing, that they're entitled to the whole thing, so we, as the court, we say, each of you swear that you have no less than 50%, and then we're going to divide it. And dividing means that if it's the type of item that can be divided and each one has a value, we cut it in half. Or if it's the type of thing that would destroy it, so we sell it and divide the proceeds. Okay. So, and in that case, they divide it with a shvua, by swearing. But here, Eli Yamar Rav Yossi, but Rav Yossi, he says, Hu hasha uma hasam debavadai ika mana lamar. So for sure, Jen and Bree, each one have 100. Nobody is arguing about that. So Amar Rav Yossi, hey munach ad shivo Eliyahu, he says everything gets set aside. So is Rav Yossi disagreeing with our Mishnah? Would he have a problem with the way that we decided to divide Fran and Miriam's sweater? So the Gemara, yes, Fran.
I think he would, because you're still not punishing the Ramai.
Well, so we're going to see. Fran, what?
Oh, I was just saying, but it's a little bit of a different case, because one of them is definitely lying, whereas in the first case,
Right.
they could both be telling the truth.
Very good, very good. So he says, because why? Because here, in our case, in our Mishnah, where it's Fran and Miriam holding the sweater, it's possible to say, Dechad minayu hu lo kol shekain. So one of them it's for sure, right? Afilu Tamer Rav Yossi could say, Hasam Vadai Ikarama. In the case of of Jen and Bree, one of them is lying. No question about it, right? So, but here, so you can't, so then, but here, Hacha, here, Mi Yemar Di Ikaramai, is it necessarily true that there is somebody who is lying? Not necessarily, right? Because what's happening here is Ika, Amo, we could say, Travayu Bahadea Dadia Boa. They did pick it up together. So just as Fran and Miriam are coming into our court, and it's possible that they did happen to pick it up simultaneously, and therefore neither one of them is trying to pull the wool, because it was a cotton sweater, but no, neither one of them is trying to fool us. So therefore, Rav Yossi would not necessarily have a problem with our case, right? Because there's not necessarily a Ramai, a deceiver, a liar, in that circumstance. With Jen and Bree and Eva, there has to be. Well, somebody is lying for sure. There's no other way around it. But in our so the point is Rav Yossi would not necessarily disagree with our decision, right? We're the judges. We're deciding. He would maybe go along with what we said in that case because it does not contradict his opinion, right, Terry?
Yeah.
Okay. So in that case, here, so he says there it's possible there's nobody because they picked it up. Inami Hasam Kanim Le Rav Yossi L'Ramai. So there, in the case where there is a Ramai, where there is a tricker, a deceiver, so but he would say in terms of the person who is going to be creating this deception, so she could say, my Pesida Islay, what loss will I have if I say it's 200? I'm still going to get 100, right? So Rav Yossi is saying to the Rabbanon, he's saying, what you're offering here as a solution doesn't work because that person who was prepared to lie
Has nothing to lose.
Has
has nothing to lose.
He's getting his money back.
Has nothing to lose, right? So kihechi de levadai hachamai peseda isla. What's the loss, right? The levadai tenech mitzias mekach. So and he would even say in the case of the mitzia where Fran and Miriam found the sweater, he might say that person might make a claim. So let's say that it's not Fran and Miriam because neither one of them would do something dishonest. Let's say it's two other people. And Carol and Alice, whatever it is, they come into our court.
Cousins.
What?
Bree and Jen's cousins.
Bree and Jen's cousins, right? So it's Rocky and Kate, right? Not Kate, but Rocky and Kat, right? They came in and in that case, one of them could lie because they have nothing to lose because they have no investment. It's not like the case of the $100 that they deposited with Eva, because they just found it in the parking lot. Robin, did you want to?
Yeah, I had a question. You had said earlier when you were talking about oaths that there was the view that people would be, less reluctant to lie under oath. I'm
Right.
assuming it's a they adon lemakom, fear that people would lie. So why doesn't Rav Yossi propose having a shvua here, if you know that there's a deceiver?
Right, so we're gonna get to that. That's a very good question,
Okay.
okay? So he says, what loss is there, right? And in terms of even the found object, neither one of them has an investment. So, okay, I'll agree with that. But how about the case of Kate, the storekeeper, right? So, Mekach Memkar Ma'ikal Memer. So in Kate also, she's doing two jobs for us today. She's distributing the money to the employees, but she also has a booth at the boutique, right? And Marilyn and Tova wanted to buy the same hat, right? And Kate has to, and they both paid Kate. We have to decide what happens. So in that case, they did put some money out, right? So in that case, Ela Machvarta Kedushanim Me'akara, so what we learned originally, Bein L'Rabbanim, Bein L'Rav Yossi, in that case, either event, the shvuah is going to be required, whether it's the rabbis or Rav Yossi. Then also it says, Gabi Chenveni Al Pinkaso, in the case of the storekeeper with his ledger, Tikatani Zenish Bavanotel, Zenish Bavanotel, and we learned that the way that we settled that case is that the employee, the landscaper, the grass cutter swears that he did not get paid, and the storekeeper swears that she paid him. So what happens? They both swear, and who has to wind up paying? The owner, right? The landscaper has to pay his employee, and he also has to pay back the storekeeper, right?
No witnesses.
Because there were no witnesses, there was nothing in writing, they were both busy, they weren't paying attention, and that just teaches you have to be careful. So why is that? Why is that? He says, Maishna Gelo Amrina Nafki Lamamona Balabayas. So why not leave the money in the possession of Todd, the landscaper, right? And in that case, so why not in that case? Let the money be set aside, let him put it in escrow, right? Which Kate said, that was her solution before. So let's say there's $1,000, whatever it is, take that $1,000, put it in escrow, put it or deposit it with the court. So why in that case do we say that the person, both of them, the storekeeper and the employee, swear and they take the money? Why not just set it aside? So because the Habavada Ikaramai, because certainly in that case there is somebody who's lying, no question about it, right? She couldn't have paid the person and he didn't get paid, or he, so it has to be somebody's lying, right? So in that case, what's the reason? Hainatama, the reason is so Kate can say to Todd, to the landscaper, she can say to him, I did what you asked me to do. Don't mix me in with your employees. You have trouble with your workers, that's not my problem. You asked me to pay, I did what you asked me to do. So my isli gabe sochir, I have nothing to do with your worker. You asked me to pay, I did what I was asked to do, right? So in that case, afagav dekam mishtabeli, if he swears, so Kate says, if that landscaper swears that he didn't get paid, that's not good enough for me, because I have nothing to do with him. I did what you asked me to do. You've got to make it good, okay? So in that case, lo me'emeli, I won't believe him if he makes a shua because I did what you asked me to do. So you believe him with a shua. I'm not going to believe him. I have nothing to do with him. I don't even know who he is, right? So I'm supposed to believe this person, right? You didn't say to me, give in the money with witnesses, right? You just said to me, when the employees come, they line up, you pay them. So Kate says, that's your problem. If you have an employee that lies, that's got nothing to do with me. And if he swears, I'm still not interested. It had nothing to do with me, and you've got to make good what you told me you're going to pay me. For Sachir Nami. By the same token, the worker, the grass cutter, says the same thing. So he says to Todd the same thing. I did work for you. You hired me to cut the grass and make a nice edge, right, and take care of the property. So my isli gabe chemeni, I have nothing to do with her. She's helping you. That's got nothing to do with me. You hired me to cut the grass. You pay me. I'm not interested in any oaths that she might take. That's got nothing to do with me. So I work for you. My isli gabe chemeni. What do I have to do with it? I'm not interested in that. Afagav de mishtabali. Even though that storekeeper might swear, I'm not going to believe that. Hilkach travayi mishtabi ushakli. Therefore, each one of them swears, and Todd, the landscaper, has to pay them both. Because neither one of them will accept the statement of the other. And they say, we have nothing to do with each other. It's not like Fran and Miriam coming in, both holding on to the garment. You know, in this case, neither one has anything to do with the other. And they take it from Todd, okay? So now let's get back to our case of Eva and Jen and Bree. So Tani Rav Chia, so here's another case. Mana li b'yadcha.
Wait,
So if you're in the Hebrew part, so count up from the bottom. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Yeah, 14 lines up. Tani Rav Chia. If you're in the Hebrew.
Number 7.
There's a little
Yeah.
7, there's a little 7.
It's a little 7?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, time is.
So he says, so somebody comes, let's say there's only Jen. And Jen comes to Eva and she says to her, I deposit $100 with you. And Eva says, Ein lach b'yadi klum. I don't have anything of yours. I'm not holding anything of yours. But what happened now? Now we're going to introduce a new wrinkle. But Eidim Me'idin also, now witnesses come and testify. So this deposit was done before in front of witnesses. Now the witnesses come into the court, and what do they say? They testify, Sheyesh lo chamishim. So the witnesses say,
They have
50. Right. So Jen is looking for 100, but Jen was smart enough, she brought witnesses along with her when she gave the money to Eva, but the witnesses say it was only 50.
Oh.
Okay, so now what are we gonna do?
Now we're in trouble.
Now what are we gonna do? So, okay, so first of all, no sin lo chamishim zuz. So certainly, there's testimony of witnesses and facts are established in our court, in a Jewish court, by the testimony of 2 witnesses. So again, the witnesses are going to be interrogated, Jill. We're going to make sure that they're kosher and all that other stuff. We've gone through all that. We accept their testimony, and so Eva has to give 50, right? So then gives 50. So then, and she swears that she does not owe the other 50. Why? Because if Eva said that on her own, if Jen came to Eva and said, you owe me 100, and Eva said, all I owe you is 50. So in that case, Eva is what is called a moda b'miktsas. She admits to a partial aspect of the claim. She's not completely denying it, and we're going to get to Robin right away. Why does a person do such a thing? So she's not denying the claim, she admits to part of it. And therefore, we don't ask her, we compel her to swear on the other 50. And if she swears the other 50, so she's released. And the Gemara says that the testimony of witnesses can't be any less than her own admission. Therefore, if there are witnesses, just as if she had admitted, she swears on the 50, and in that case, then she's off the hook, right? And why? Because her own statement should not be greater from the testimony of witnesses. Okay? And from a kavachomer is how we learn something easy from something difficult. What is that? So Tana Tuna, and we learn Shnaim Ochas and Batalis. In the case of Fran and Miriam, they're both holding on to this garment. Zeram Anima Tzosia V'Kulashi. So that's the etc. Right? That case. Each one says that I found it. It's mine. And in that case, V'Ha Hacha Kivan de Toughest. Since they're both holding on to it, Anan Sahadi. We are the witnesses. They come into court. We see them holding on to it. So we see that each of them is in possession of this item. We don't need any more than that. We see it, right? So in that case, we demai the toughest. That each one is holding on. Haidi dehu. So what each one is holding in the end, it's gonna belong to them. Umaydi Tofes Haidi Dehu, and what the other one is holding, they're gonna get. So when they both make the same claim, and we see them holding it, we have no choice but to decide in that way. Of course, they're gonna have to swear and everything else, but still in all, that's gonna be the decision. Vikatani Yeshava, and we say that they swear. Why is that? Shelo tehei hodos piv gedola mihodos edim mikal v'chomer. So that because in the case of the witnesses, that is going to be a stronger proof than a person's own admission. So why is the case of somebody who is admitting? So if somebody comes to okay, so Shandel's here the first time, so we're gonna make her the subject. So her neighbor says, Shandel, I lent you $100, and Shandel is not going to totally deny the claim. Just it wasn't convenient for her right now. She didn't get a chance to go to the bank. She doesn't have the cash on her right now. So what is going on? So then, because Durami Rachmana Shvuale, because the Torah asked her to swear, Kidrava, according to Rava, Omar Rava, so Rava says, Mipnei ma Omra Torah modu mixas hatana yeshava. Why, if somebody admits to a part of the claim, are they required to swear? Because chazaka, it is understood, ein adam meis panav b'fnei bal chovo. So if someone lends me money and he comes to collect the money, I'm not going to such chutzpah to come into open court and deny that claim. That would take a lot. So I'll say, you know what? You didn't lend me 1,000. You lent me 500, and here's the 500. Because I don't happen to have the other 500 right now. I'm not really denying that there was ever a loan. I admit that there was a loan, but it's not convenient. I don't have the other 500 right now. So I'll say, you lent me 500, because I'm not going to have the nerve to deny the whole thing. And therefore, Rava says, make him swear on the other half. At least let him accept the obligation, and then he's going to have to satisfy that. So we've introduced another new concept, right? That we say ein adam meis b'fnei bal chovo. A person is not going to have such chutzpah is a good word, right? To not admit, and we'll continue on that same vein next week. Thank you.